Good morning. This is Rabbi Shlomo First here, Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi, and we are learning Avos, our first year of the morning, 9 o'clock. We have breakfast, hot coffee, and if we finish the first two pots, we'll make more coffee.
Amen.
And Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi is located in Yerushalyim, HaKodesh, not too far from the central bus station in the Beit Knesset of Kanasi Yeshiva, on HaKodesh, number 6. Please join us. Especially if you're coming from Kutzmaritz, we'd like to enrich your visit to Yerushalyim in Yerushalyim with Torah and Yerushalyim, and also good food to eat for breakfast. Okay, we're going to move on a little further. We're going to spend more time with the Maharal's detailed explanation of the Zugos and the Maimor of Rabbi Yossi ben Eliezer and Rabbi Yossi ben Yochanan. And let's just review the Mishnah at the top of the new sheet we have for this week. We have here the quote of the Mishnah Avos, and we'll go explain a few things. We'll take it one step at a time. Any volunteers to start reading? We'll start again. We read from the Mishnah. Basically a quote directly from the Mishnah. Israel?
Yeah.
Read the Mishnah. Go ahead.
Yossi ben Eliezer ish Tzerda. Yossi ben Eliezer means
Right, so Yossi ben Eliezer, he was the Ish trader. Ish in general, the commentaries name, not just he wasn't Ish shell trader, he was Ish trader. He was the man. He was the man. He was the leader of trader. Right? It was not if it had said Ish shell trader, he was a person of trader. But here it says Ish trader. He was trader's man. He was the leader of trader. And Yossi ben, go ahead.
Yossi ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim.
So he was the Ish, he was the leader of Yerushalayim.
Kiblu mehem Yossi ben Eliezer.
Oh, so Kibul Mehem. Okay, so now that was the preface. That's the beginning of the pair, the Zugos of Yossi ben Eliezer, Ish Trader, and Yossi ben Yochanan, Ish Yerushalayim. Now, what did they say? What was their transmission that they wanted to give over to each generation afterwards?
Yossi ben Eliezer only hey Beisechel Beis. Your house should be for it. Your house should be a house.
Beis Vad, the Chachamim.
Beis Vad.
Should be a Beis Vad, a gathering place for the Chachamim. Your house should be a gathering place for the Chachamim.
Have misavek over Agles.
You should.
Clean, right?
Well, this abik you should become dusty with the offer from the dust of their feet. I mean, you should be constantly at the feet of the Chachamim. Meaning they should be always gathering in your house. And don't think just because you're in your house you shouldn't be around them. You should be around them as well. So much so that you're getting dusty from the dust of their own feet. They're so close to them and so constantly by them. Meaning not just inviting the Chachamim into your house to use it as a gathering place, but you're actually taking part in the situations that are occurring there. So you're physically by them, right? They physically, first thing is they physically come into your house, number 1. Number 2, you're physically by them, right? And number 3,
you should drink from the thirst of their words.
right, you should drink thirstily their words. Meaning your attitude should be that every word of theirs is like a drop of water for a thirsty person. Right? So again, these 3 things. Your physical house should be a place of gathering for the Chachamim. They should come in. Number 2, you shall physically be associated with them. And thirdly, psychologically, you shall desire very strongly to hear what they have to say. 3 things. Okay? That's the first statement based on the words of Yossi ben Eliezer. He's straight. Okay?
Yossi ben Eliezer ish
Yochanan.
Yochanan ish Yerushalayim. Yochanan is the leader of Yerushalayim, say. Yehei Beisechel Pasuch L'Ravacha. Should be a house should be opening the Racha was abundance.
Right, your house should be open to the revuches, to the directions, and in the direction in your revucha. It should be, and not only also to revucha, it should be open widely. Your house should be open widely.
You and me and Tanei said that we should be the children of the house. We found everything. Al Tarbe Sika in Isha Ishta should not talk a lot with your wife. Too much chatter. Amru that said Kavakova that Isha's for her or the Mosa with the friend's wife, right?
Yes.
Kad Amru Chachamim, and here the Chachamim said, Holds man, Sha'ada Marber Sicha in Isha. Anytime a person keeps a lot of chattering with his wife, Gorim Ra Atzmai, causes bad to himself. The Vato Mediva Torah, in Mavatak on the word of Torah, Sefer Yarosh Gehenna is going to inherit Gehenna. What does it mean? Not too much?
Yeah, we'll be discussing that in detail. So again, just to review, so Rabbi Yochanan Yossi ben Yochanan Yerushalyim, he said they secher pesuach l'revaka should be open, right? V'hayu aniyim b'nei. That's so your house, your door should be open. Number one, and number two, aniyim should be b'nei v'secher. The aniyim should be like your family members. So this is in contrast to Rabbi Yossi ben Yezer. He said your house should be a base vod for Chachamim. And again, we have to realize, and we'll see this even more strongly when we get more deeply involved with the Maharal, these are not to be taken contradictory. These are complementary.
They agree with each other.
Yes, they agree with each other. Not that at odds with the other, they're complementing each other. Meaning, on one hand, you should have your house should be a base vod for Chachamim. At the same time, it should be open to anybody. And not only that, the aniyim, the poor people, the homeless people, hungry people, should be part of your household. And al terbar sika, so you shouldn't be involved with sika. Sika, we'll try and get to this more as we get further involved with the actual statements that they're making. But sika usually implies a casual speech, meaning like as you very well chatter, like non-sensible, useless type of conversation. That you shouldn't have a lot of conversation such as that with a woman. We'll get more involved with that further. And the ishto, that is been referenced to as a person's own wife. Kol v'chomer, it has to do with your friend's wife. Right? And from there we learn the Chachamim say, Kol zman sh'adam b'siyim isha, yor moral atzmo. Number one, anytime that a person is going to have useless conversation with a woman, he's causing he's causing detriment to himself. Number one, both of them different Torah, anyway, because he can't speak Sika Isha at the same time you're speaking Torah, so you have no choice. Anytime you're not doing this, you're not doing that. Right? So if you're not speaking Divrei Torah, you're speaking something else, so you're Mamela, you buckle the Divrei Torah.
One question on that.
Sure.
Could we possibly medayik on this and say only by women? Is this prohibited? Like, therefore, is it okay to keep it like with like with your friend, with your male friend?
Okay, so very good. I think the answer to your question is as follows: we have to be taught this, meaning the tendency would be, right, because there's an affinity the sexes have for each other, right, that a person may want to and be inclined to speak these kind of things with the woman. But in fact, the halacha is, if you want, we'll get more involved with it. The halacha is, the Mishnah Berurah brings in Hilchos Shabbos, we know that your speech on Shabbos should be the same speech as your weekday speech, right? Dibur davar. You can't talk about things. The general rule is, anything which is forbidden to do on Shabbos is forbidden to talk about on Shabbos. Meaning, many times you get a recipe, right? I want you, the eggs were so good, I want to know your recipe.
I can't tell you the recipe on Shabbos.
And you're not even supposed to read about recipes on Shabbos, right? You can't do it, right? So, because what's the point? Shabbos is Kodesh. Shabbos is Me'el Olam Haba. One of the first sugis in the Gemara Brachos, the beginning of Torah Bal Peh, is do the Mesim know anything about Olam Hazeh? Meaning, once a person's left this world, right? Do those people in Olam Haba, in the next world, do they know anything about what's still going on in this world, right? And the way I understand the Gemara, it never came to a true, conclusive, definitive answer. But the inclination, the direction which the Gemara seemed to take is that they really know nothing about this world. In certain circumstances they did, right? But in general they really know nothing about this world. Because it really doesn't interest them. This world is like, I mentioned this a few months ago. Does a person think about his mother's womb? You know, how like, when was the last time a person thought about his mother's womb? I mean, as nice as it was, but that's long gone, right? That's not here anymore, right? So we have to realize that this world, right, is as alien and strange and unnecessary for a person in Olam Haba as the womb of a person's mother is for him who's out and alive in this world. It's simply gone and over and done with. That was then, right? The cocoon for the caterpillar, the butterfly, is not interested in that anymore, right? That was something was necessary then, was vital for them. But it's like it's cast off. It's something which is completely gone and over and done with, right? So Shabbos is Me'el Olam Haba, right? If Shabbos is Me'el Olam Haba, it's like one of the halachas of Shabbos is you have halachas which are relevant to Makshava, thought, relevant to. Excuse me?
Some milk.
Okay, come on, sit down. Wait, we'll take a break. We'll take a break in 15-20 minutes. Then we will. So there's halachas of Shabbos which are relevant to thought, to speech, and also to action, right? So, as we said, anything that's forbidden to do on Shabbos, you can't talk about, and you really are not even supposed to think about it, right? Because in general, the soft way of explaining it, the general way of explaining is that Shabbos Me'el Olam Haba, and a person's supposed to think his thought process on Shabbos is that everything that has all his work has been done for the work. Everything's been done. Everything's been finished. That's where it's very worthwhile for a person to try and take care of everything toward the end of the week. That he doesn't have any loose ends that are going to bother him on Shabbos, right? So as much as you can try and take care of it, so shouldn't be bothered. Everything's cleared. Desk is clear. All the things that you could possibly do. The week's work is done, right? So now you enter Shabbos. You enter just like a person enters Olam Haba. He forgets completely about this world. It's over and done with, just like the womb is over and done with. Right? Shabbos made Olam Haba. So therefore, if you can't cook, so no one's cooking Olam Haba, right? Shabbos made Olam Haba. So why are we talking about recipes? Right? There are certain ways you can and certain ways you shouldn't. Right? So once you know the rules, you know the rules. Right? Like business, a person shouldn't be talking about business. A person, if a person made a nice deal, he's happy about his deal, he wants to tell his friends and talk about his friends, he can talk about it because it's something which is in the past, right? Past things you can, in fact, talk about within certain rules and regulations, right? But in general, anything that you can't, if you want to, a person's taking a trip, he's leaving, you have a guest by your table, what are you doing for next week? So I'm going to England. When are you leaving? On Yom Shishi. How are you getting there? Taking a plane. When are you? So I can't take a plane on Shabbos. So I shouldn't talk about talking about planes. I can't get to the airport on Shabbos. If I could walk to Telstone, I could talk about something I might want to do with Telstone. I have a siyum in Telstone on Yom Shishi. So in fact, you could talk to. If it's a Torah mitzvah, so then There are ways you could, even if you're going to England, what are you going to England for? I'm going, there's going to be a scene, there's going to be an event, there's going to be a marriage, whatever, things like this. So sometimes within the context of mitzvah, there are certain leniencies, right? But Shabbos made all right? So when we are talking about things on Shabbos, we have to be careful what we're talking about, because it should be Shabbos is as Ein Olam Haba, like so this world, the 7 days, the 6 days of the week were weekday week, they've gone and over and done with. So you want to avoid that.
So this means that we can't medayik on this and say only to women.
Right? Because really Sikha B'Teila, what we call Sikha B'Teila, right, is an issur for everybody, right?
What's medayik?
To be
to say only
analytical, to be analytical, to analyze the expressions and the words to make inferences from them, right? Right. Sometimes you can just read something and then you can try to do a form of analysis to realize, if I tell you don't cross on the green on the yellow, right? That means I can cross on the red and I can cross on the green, right? Don't cross on the yellow. See the yellow light, don't cross on the yellow light. So that means I can cross on the green, I can cross on the red. So, but if you know the other rule, you don't cross on the red, you know that your inference is wrong, right? But you could make that inference. If a certain makes, don't cross on the yellow light. So I can cross on the green light and I can cross on the red light, but the yellow light I don't cross. But then if you know the other rule, right, you can't cross on the red, so you know your inference is wrong, right? But if it says only cross on the green, so that I know
Can't cross on red, can't cross on yellow.
right?
Okay.
So
you medayik the red and the yellow from knowing the green.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly. We could, if you want, we can. Remind me if we want, we can take out the Hilchos Shabbos. Not now. I can show you the halachas of speaking on Shabbos, and.
This is all week though. You don't.
This is right. So, because why? Because the Mishnah Berurah says, this is getting back to the point. Mishnah Berurah says in Hilchos Shabbos is even during the weekdays a person has to be careful from what we call Sikha B'Teila, useless conversations, right? But the general rule is any time you can have a conversation on whatever subject it may be, right? If it's going to be for a purpose, is purposeful, then it's not Sikha B'Teila. There's a Gemara that there was, I forgot the Tana, I think it was a Tana or a Mora, he was walking a certain marketplace with Eliyahu Navi. And he asked Eliyahu Navi, who amongst these people in this marketplace are going to be Ben Olam Haba? Who are going to be Zoika to come to the next world? Right? So he said, these two brothers. He said, these two brothers. I forgot, I think maybe they were what they were doing there. He said, these two brothers. So he went over to these two brothers and says, tell me, what's so special about you? He didn't tell them that but he said, what's so special about what you do? He says, we're comedians. This is more. He says, we're comedians. So he starts thinking to himself, comedians? Well, comedians should get to Olam Haba. What's the great thing about being a comedian? Right? So they say, so he asked, tell me more about what you do. What do you just got it? So he said, we go to people, we see they're depressed, and we make jokes, we make them laugh, and we cheer them up and get them up out of their depression. So for that, they get Olam Haba, right? And all the people in the shuk, he didn't say, there might have been 1,000 people in the shuk, hundreds of people in the shuk. Out of these two, they were the only ones that had that special status of being a Ben Olam Haba. Ben Olam Haba, I think that's the Lashon you do, I have to double check. Ben Olam Haba is a person who's like a Ben Bias. He's a family member. Like you be Kol Yisrael Yesh Lem Chelik Olam Haba. Every Jew has a chelik in Olam Haba. That you get. That's your ticket. When you come into this world, everyone has a chelik, a ticket, a place in the next world, right? How big it's going to be, what kind of actuality it's going to be, is all dependent upon your Torah Ma'asim Tovim that you do in this world, right? But to be a Ben Olam Haba, to be like a member of the club over there, that's not so simple, and it's not given over to everybody to achieve. But because they were comedians, and they helped people get out of depression, so they were zoited to be on a special status. So if it's purposeful, even though it's not Divrei Torah, if it's purposeful, so it's within the context of mitzvah. If it's within the context of mitzvah, it's not always mundane conversation. But to have mundane conversation just to shoot the breeze, right? There's no place in Yiddishkeit for that, unless it's just a form of relaxation or something like that. You want to do it you want to come to a person to see, you want to help him in some way. You want to, a guy is sitting there, he's lonely, and so you may not be interested in hearing exactly what you're learning in Avos. You may not be that kind of a person, right? But you try and approach him in a mundane form. If they try to do with it to a purpose, it's worthwhile. It's not considered sikha betela, useless conversation. But it's always good to, especially in my building where I live. So I'm on the 7th floor, so it's a 2-second ride in the elevator. So sometimes you get in there with neighbors and other people in the elevator. So sometimes you just you get 30 seconds, 40 seconds of silence can last a lifetime sometimes. It's amazing how So you have to, 1 or 2 people staring everywhere, not doing anything. So I always try and have a little something in my mind, something on the parsha, a little bit of a halacha, that to make the time pass and to make use of the time. It's amazing. 30, 40 minutes time on the, and I was amazed. Just to show you, I'll talk about this later on another time, but like what can occur in a second? It used to be that you've heard about the Indy 500, Daytona 500. These car races. You have them in South Africa as well.
I think so.
Yeah, I think they all like to get around there. And in general, that people are probably just waiting for the crash to happen. But because what's so exciting about cars going around and around and around, for hours and hours. But they say that the races are won in the pits. You have to make a pit stop. What does it mean you have to have a pit stop? You change your tires, get fueled up, right? And whatever else needs to be done, and you go on, right? Get back into the race. So they say the races are won in the pits, right? Do you know that the world's record for a pit stop is 1.91 seconds? Can you believe what happens in less than 2 seconds? They change 4 tires of a car, fuel it up, and whatever other things they have to do, right?
And just in that time?
Huh?
In that time?
In that amount of time?
How do they do that?
Very quickly.
That's an ultimate team, man. Pit crew.
23, the standard pit for Formula 1 car, right? 23 guys, right? And it's a little dangerous. The car's pulling in, and he's pulling out also. And but what can you do? That's what can you do? Because every second they're going at those speeds, they go about 500 miles an hour or something like that? 200. About 200 miles an hour. So 200 miles an hour, every second, it's hundreds of feet. So a guy's, if he's pulling in, his competitor is going to be 300, 400, 500 feet, depending on how many seconds he's back there in the pits. 200 each second is 100 feet on the lap, right? So, they got it down to a science. These guys practice. And they don't wait. There's no wasting time. So it just goes to show me like what time is worth. What you can, change the tires of the car and fuel it up and all the other things, whatever that needs to be done. Get it to jack it up, jack it down. Amazing. So sikha betela is something which we should try and be aware of and careful about. We'll maybe as we get further into the actual halacha of what's being discussed over here, we'll bring out the Mishnah Berurah to see what the Chafetz Chaim actually writes about it. Okay, so now we're going to just spend some time now concerning those are the things they said. We're going to discuss the content of what they Yossi ben Yehuda and Yossi ben Yochanan spoke about. We'll discuss the content. Probably beginning next week, we'll get into the content more. Now we just want to discuss more about the fact that they were pairs, zugos. Let's go to the Rav part of the year. You have the next source there in the sheet. Sure, want to continue?
Rav Avodia Bama Bartanur, Mesechus Avos. Yossi ben Yehuda ish Tzoida. He was a man of Tzveida. Yossi ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim. Yossi ben Yochanan was the man of Yerushalayim. Kol Han has Noim.
Call it Tanoim, meaning you have Tanoim and Amoroim, right? So these, in Avos, see Avos, since it's Mishnayos, right? The personalities, the Gedolim Torah, the sages, the Chachamim, which are mentioned in Mishnayos, all of Mishnayos are Tanoim, right? The difference between Tanoim and Amoroim is that basically the Tanoim lived up until and for maybe 2, perhaps 3 generations after the time of the Churban Bayis Sheni. So Tanoim lived at the time of the Bayis Sheni, the second temple, and also 2 or 3 generations after the destruction of the temple. The Amoraim lived exclusively, beginning say to 2 to 3 generations after the time of the destruction of the temple. So Tanoim, that's what we know to be the Mishnayos, the Brises, these things. The Gemara, that's usually the Amoraim dealing with the statements of the Tanoim. So all this is Pirkei Avos is Mishnayos. All the sages mentioned in the Pirkei Avos are Tanoim. So it continues, right? Kol Tanoim is Karim.
All the times God prepared Zeh,
Zug. They're pairs of pairs.
Pairs of pairs, Pliny, such and such a people, Kiblu, Pliny, such and such a person.
Right. So each one of the Tanoim that are mentioned in this parak of Mishnayos in Avos, they are the pairs. They are 2 people, Ploni and Ploni, and they received Kiblu and Ploni. They received from 2. So each of the 2 received from 2. So now, not only that, but furthermore, the Rishon, the one that's listed first, is the Nasi. The Nasi will translate the prince, right? And the Sheni, the second one is the Av Beis Din, the head of the court. So you have the prince, and you have the head of the court. Right? So in this case, therefore, Yossi ben Eliezer used to straighten, he was the Nasi, and Yossi ben Yochanan, Yerushalyim, he was the Av Beis Din. Okay, we'll maybe get into that a little further, but what's the Nasi, what's the Av Beis Din, but suffice it to say that that's the basic difference between the first and the second. They both had, and therefore they had different stations in life, different roles to fulfill. The Nasi had his role to fulfill in terms of being a formal post, and the Av Beis Din had a formal post and different roles and different missions to achieve and to fulfill based on the post he was fulfilling. Okay. Let's see the next one. This is Musagim Talmidim. So this is like a dictionary which explains different concepts. So this is explaining the concept of zugos. What's zugos?
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah, sure.
How does Rav Bartanura know that the institutions of Nasi and Av Beis Din started so early? How does he know that?
First, Rav Bartanura usually is a compendium of earlier sources.
Okay.
I mean, Rav Bartanura, Rav Bartanura was not a Rishon, he was an Achron, if I'm not mistaken. We'll just double check. Yeah, Bartanura, that's the wine. It's a place in Italy. Yeah. So we have here Rav Bartanura. Yeah, it was very early Achron, but he was an Achron. Lived approximately 500 years ago, okay, in Italy, right? And preceding him was the Abarbanel, and following him was the Rav Izrahi, that's the coming on Rashi, Chumash, and the Sipornu, right? The Radbaz, and Rav Yossi Karo, the Baal Shulchan. So he was approximately, actually lived at the time of the Rav Yosef Karo. So the Rav Bartanura lived at the time of the Machaber, the Shulchan Aruch, right? But he was quite, say, much of what he writes in his commentary, specifically, or his commentaries basically on Mishnayos, it's basically basically mostly on Rashi, not always. There are some differences, and so he lived about 400 years after Rashi.
Okay.
So yeah, he's not saying it on his own. If you want, I can find out more about the. Well, I mean, we may want to take a little diversion to go with the low concepts of Avos and Nafshi, which we may actually do. Okay. So what is it? Zugos. That's
Pair?
pair. Yes, we. Yeah, I could be like to read the rest of it.
The rest of which section?
The third source.
Okay. Zugos. Kenui.
That's kinui. Now kinui is in loose language like a nickname, but it's like it's like a code word. It's a definition.
Kinui. L'chamshat.
Lachamisha.
L'chamishat. Hazugot. For the 5 zugos. Shel Chachmei Yisrael. שעמדו בראש הסנהדרין בישיבת החכמים אחרי תקופת אנשי כנסת הגדולה. So it's an alternate name. So I guess we're defining zugot here.
Right.
So it's an alternate name for the 5 pairs of sages of Israel that stood up in the Sanhedrin. And the Yeshiva of sages after the Tikufat.
The time period.
Okay. Of the Anshe Knesset Gedolah.
So the Zugos came after the time period of the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, and there were 5 pairs, right? So that existed for the basically 5 generations, and they were those pairs based on who was at the head of the Sanhedrin and the head of the Yeshivas Chacham, the gathering of the sages. And who were they?
Behem, Yosef ben Yoezer, Yosef ben Yochanan.
That's the first pair.
Yeshua ben Prachya, the Natai Arbali.
Second pair.
Yehuda ben Tavai, Shimon ben Shetach.
That's the third pair.
Shmaya ve'Avtalyon, Hallel v'Shamai, Harishon mehem haya Nasi, v'Hasheni Av Beis Din.
So the first one that's listed is the Nasi, and the Sheni is the Av Beis Din. Okay, good. We'll stop here. That's an introduction to what we'll be discussing further in the Maharal. Maharal basically is going to go into much deeper understanding of the roles of each member of the pair, meaning from the aspect of Abba, from the aspect of Yira. We'll discuss that more tomorrow, Mr. Shah.